Good evening. You're watching the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar, and on the agenda today, we're going to talk about corporate India opening up their purse strings, big figures of donations coming before us in the last 48 hours, ranging from 1,000 crore rupees by the Tata Group to, of course, several others who are also contributing. We're going to talk about what can be done beyond these donations, what can be done in terms of innovation, and can corporate India actually walk the talk and go a few steps further. Apart from that, we're also talking about the big, massive humanitarian crisis brewing across our country with a mass migration of sorts of laborers, migrant workers trying to make their way home. Where are the solutions? All of that on the agenda. But first, let's begin with the big debate this hour, which is focused on corporate India. So you've been seeing these big numbers splashed around, a lot of these contributions being made to the PM Care funds and various state government funds. It's also been made a little bit easier after the finance ministry said that all COVID-19 related relief will be accounted for under CSR. But our question is, what more can be done? Now, there is some innovation we are seeing. Companies which are utilizing their capacity to build ventilators. You have distilleries making hand sanitizers. You have clothing companies now making masks and gowns. But what more? What more needs to be done? Could corporate India, for example, have stepped in some way in the face of this huge migrant worker issue that we are seeing? Can something have been done to make their lives easier? Just to talk about all this and more, I'm joined today by Ganesh Natarajan. Niranjan Hiranandani is speaking with us today, and corporate watcher Prabal Basu Roy also joins us on the discussion. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us. Let me begin by getting Mr. Hiranandani's views in. Mr. Hiranandani, many will say that the corporate sector, and I'm talking about this as a whole, no individual company or sector, has received a bonanza from the government few months ago of about 1.45 lakh crores when corporate taxes were cut down. What is corporate India doing in this time of need, especially in the real estate sector? Could more have been done to make migrant workers feel more secure?
I think you'll be surprised to know a lot has been done, and a lot is being done by the real estate industry. Today, we take care of all the workers who are there on our sites, and there are lots of them. For instance, in our company alone, there are 4,000 workers, temporary workers, contractual laborers who are there on our sites. We take care of them completely. We look after their food. We sanitize their area. We are trying to progressively push for social distances to be maintained, all this aspect, plus we are checking temperature of these workers on a daily basis. All that is being done to see that these workers are kept at our site so they don't go back to their villages or any other place for this. Secondly, we have set up hospital areas which are there. We have hospitals with us. We have already opened segments of them for the purposes of coronavirus patients. We have already treated some of them. We are taking care of them on a continuing basis. We are testing in our hospitals. That's the second thing which we are doing. And the third thing which we are doing now is to see that those workers which actually are migrant workers and do not belong to our construction part of it, but are actually migrant over the cities in Mumbai, we are taking care of them and providing shelter to them under the aegis of the government and the local corporation. They are bringing these workers to our sites, and we will be taking care of them. This has just started today, and we expect that in the next couple of days, it would reach at least 10 to 20,000 workers in the next 2 or 3 days. These workers will be required because Mumbai has to face the monsoon, and there is a lot of work which has to be done pre-monsoon to take care of the monsoonic situation that we have, which means cleaning the nalas, cleaning up and finishing the roads, getting the railway tracks cleared in order to see that the railway and suburban trains are working. So
Yes.
a lot of work is being done by the real estate industry in order to do it. On the other hand, let me tell you that a large number of our members have been going through crisis after crisis, and a lot of them do not have, are not in a position to even pay salaries, but still they are taking care of the construction workers. So I think the industry is standing up to the times, but of course they are in great difficulty. As far as the rest of the industry is concerned, I think everyone is taking care of it.
Okay.
Under ASSOCHAM, we have 450,000 members directly and indirectly. A large number of them are taking care of the workers today. Not everybody can
Right.
or does have the capacity to do so, but I can assure you a large number of them are taking care of the workers.
Well, if that were the case, then would we have seen such a situation develop, and what more can be done? I'm sure that your associations are doing a big job, but this is a wider question, and let me get Mr. Natarajan in on this, on what can be done. What can be done beyond just donating the money, and that is important, but then that will go to the central funds, the state funds, and then they will deploy it. Corporate India has, the ingenuity of really thriving under tough circumstances, and these are the toughest circumstances possible. Can this ingenuity, this innovation be utilized to help fellow Indians?
No, absolutely. And I'm glad you asked this question, because I really believe that what we can do is beyond the money. Absolutely. And to just give you 3 examples. One is, of course, innovation to take care of the immediate problem. And I'm glad that CSR funds are being deployed. In fact, we ourselves in Pune have set up a platform called Pune Platform, where we are getting funds from most of the corporates, which will go into buying more ventilators, creating more masks, using 3D printing, et cetera, et cetera. So that's happening. In addition, I think the point you very rightly raised about migrant workers, what we are doing now today through a social venture that I run called Pune City Connect is actually spreading out across the 650 slum communities and trying to make sure that any migrant worker or any daily wage worker who's lost his job or her job, we are making sure that they're comfortable with rations, with vegetables, with soap, at least for the next 6 weeks. And we're going around asking for money. We hope to have 400 volunteers trained and deployed as a helpline, on coordinating the supplies, et cetera, et cetera. And last but not the least, I think in the short to medium term, there is a lot to be done in building out the whole test kits and eventually maybe participating in vaccine development. And I'm glad to tell you, in fact, one of the companies that we've been supporting in Pune have actually collaborated with a German firm, and they're building out a complete test kit, which can be screening plus testing, plus taking people to the nearest healthcare center. And we hope to start doing work with that over a period of time. And finally, of course, I think a lot of hackathons are coming through. You must have heard about the Mariwala Amit Chandra foundations coming together for that one. The government of India is also doing great stuff. In fact, I'm part of an initiative by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. We're working with FICCI. And in fact, this Saturday, Sunday, we are evaluating over 600 ideas for actually building healthcare quickly to the poor. So in 3 frameworks, okay, one is the immediate relief. The second is making sure that we are supporting people in our cities and preventing them from migrating back to the villages. And third, of course, all aspects of innovation. But in the longer term, I really believe that we should continue to keep the lights on. Livelihoods are going to be extremely important. I'm very proud to say that the industries I represent, consulting, skills, and of course, IT and IT-enabled services, I think people very quickly, literally over a 48-hour period, switch to work from home. I mean, today, many of us are busier working from home than we were working in office. And I think that's good, because ultimately the wheels of the economy have to chug along. And I'm proud to say that's happening, at least in our sectors.
Yes. No, so absolutely, I take your point, and yes, working from home can be much more busier. But what I worry about, and let me get Prabal Basu Roy here. This is an open conversation. If someone wants to come in, please indicate and I'll come to you. Prabal, what I worry about is that great things are being done in little pockets. But those who need it the most, how will they even know? How will they even know that there is an XYZ company which is willing to feed them and fill ration in their house so they don't have to start a 200-kilometer walk to their village? Can your basic infrastructure be roped in? Can your telecom companies be roped in? Can your, financial payment sector be roped in. Do you think that we need to think of more innovative ideas at this point?
Yeah, sure, Tamanna. See, I'm from the financial sector and the IT sector, the combination of two of them. But I will come to that in a moment. See, this situation on a higher basis, Tamanna, we must understand this situation is very different from the earlier situations where corporates have stepped forward suo motu, during floods, famines, and so on and so forth. This situation and support required is too big. It's too big for any individual corporate or group of corporates to do, unless the government takes charge with a comprehensive response. And by comprehensive, I mean economic, financial, administrative, and political response to this entire purpose. And then only corporates can meaningfully contribute in their own way. So that is the overall handshake, which is obviously necessary at this stage. And some of the methods which were discussed, I mean, for example, one of the big problems today is with obvious regard to the unorganized sector and the MSME labor included, right? So the large corporates can and perhaps will have to keep the supply chain participants, which are all these people, together and connected, and not, completely disconnected from each other. Secondly, help exactly this group, MSMEs in particular, again, with the cash flows due to them, Third would be realign their manufacturing facilities for items which are in short supply. I mean, we've heard of ventilators, testing kits, gloves, masks, etc., whatever else is needed in that range. Open up unutilized hotel capacity, for example, the likes of Tata's, like of Oberoi's, like of Oyo rooms, etc., etc. Capacity for hotels and temporary shelters. Organized food kitchens. I mean, this is the need of the hour at the immediate basis. And like Mr. Natarajan said, once we get over this hump, then, and the lockdown is over, which is a great constraint, obviously. Once that is over, then of course, other frameworks can come in place for more innovation.
Mr. Hiranandani, I want to ask you once again about one thing which has been suggested, and we know that some real estate companies are now helping in building hospitals, turning them around quickly for COVID relief, but there is tons of unsold inventory, and of course you can't just talk about empty flats where people are already occupying other flats, but I'm talking about these sort of ghost buildings which we've seen in major cities because of the real estate slump. Can those be repurposed in any way? Is there a thought process on these lines?
I think in Mumbai we are already doing that. We have collected all this data and information both at the Naredco platform and also Credai platform, and the municipal corporation. All three of us have put our heads together to get all the data of unused buildings, unused parking lots, unused places where the workers can stay, unused places where potential patients could be isolated. All these things are being worked out, and the data, I think, will be available with the corporation with the help of all the developers in the next 24 hours. So I think you will get 100% of that data available as to if the situation merits, how many more places will be available. Number two, we have also picked up data in order to see where transitory workers can be housed in the intermediary process of those who do not belong to our organizations. Namely, they are doing probably work for other people who are not able to actually arrange for them, or the people on the street who are actually not able to get any shelter whatsoever. So we have, in the last 48 hours, collected this data in cooperation with the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai, who are doing a wonderful job in this case. And the developers also have provided large number of premises which will be available to them. Some of them are parking areas which can be converted. Some are housing, incomplete housing flats, but the structures are already completed, but occupation certificate may not have been technically obtained. So all this is happening, and in the next 48 hours, you should get adequate amount of data of what is available and what is not over there. Number two, the private hospitals have also started providing separate wards for the purposes of coronavirus. Testing is now being done through these 14 or 16 private hospitals also, to come along with the government and corporation hospitals in order to enhance the capacity of testing which is going to be done. So I think that's the second thing happening. And the third thing, which I think should also be noted, is the fact that we are taking care of going online on our education system completely. Children from standard 1 to standard 10th, all of them are now going on online education. Teachers are now being trained in order to do that. College students are being also given online education, reports are being submitted, and a lot of testing is being now going to be considered online. So not only this, so we have supported a large number of educational institutions to start online teaching from their teachers, and surprisingly, they have taken this up very, very well. So hospitals, staying areas, eating of foods, helping and preventing any possible things, sanitizing the working areas. All this is being worked out in Mumbai. Let me tell you, it's quite a serious.
So that's the thing. Mr. Natarajan also talked, yes, absolutely, Mr. Hiranandani, and I appreciate it. Mr. Natarajan also talked about how quickly ITES has moved to work from home and is keeping productivity up. But then again, that's what I'm saying. There are layers of India. And there are these fantastic schools which have suddenly come up with online educational courses, and some privileged students can take that up. But then there are other kids who used to go to school for that midday meal and who are not getting it right now. And there's all parts to this country. So, which is why I'm trying to take a wider view over here. Mr. Natarajan, I want to come to you on another point. You have what we call India Inc., your creme de la creme, your huge, large companies which have given very generous donations and are in a capacity to do big things. And then you have your small and medium enterprises which depend on, in a large part, on these large companies, which are finding themselves almost facing extinction. Do you think that there is something the bigger companies can do to support these businesses so that they can survive this lockdown for however long the whole situation lasts?
No, I certainly think so, because I think it's our responsibility. And you mentioned right in the beginning of this session that, the government has been kind in the past, and I think there are reasonable cash stores in large companies. So whether it's extending longer credit periods or whatever, making your dealers more successful, we have to be very conscious of the fact that this is one situation where we cannot have any citizen left behind. Already in this country, we have enough divisiveness between the rich and the poor. So I think it's absolutely our responsibility. You mentioned children in municipal schools, for instance. We are trying to ensure that not only do online facilities become available in all the 400 plus municipal schools in Pune, but the midday meals or the meals they're getting are served at home. So they should not be denied anything, and I think that's extremely important. And what Mr. Hiranandani is absolutely right. Because what he mentioned is enough people are moving online, and I think that's the testimony to the innovation we have in this country. What worries me, though, is that are we ready for a new narrative? For instance, if the entire IT sector, let's say 45 lakh people, start working from home and we get used to it, what happens to the 1:5 indirect job creation? Because don't forget, for every IT person going to the office, there are jobs created in hospitality, in security, in transportation, etc. And India will have to live with a completely new narrative. So that's why I said earlier, we have to prepare to ward off the current health crisis. But very important, we have to look for the future and start planning economically now so that we don't leave somebody behind at the end of the day.
Well, that's actually a great question and maybe a topic for another discussion on another day. What does post-COVID-19 India look like? Have we reached close enough to the end of this to be able to foresee that? But before I wrap, very quick word from you, Prabal, is also you've talked about the government getting everyone together. I think another thing that the government can do is centralize these skill sets. You have fabulous logistical companies in India who should be hard pressed right now to figure out how to smoothen our supply chains. Maybe pharma companies can subsidize or give free of cost drugs for chronic illnesses for those who need them. You think now the government needs to step in and do this without seeming to really cross the line and sort of suffocate free enterprise?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the need of the hour as of now, which is really a humanitarian crisis going on at the moment, I think a general lockdown has its disadvantages, and this is one of them. So therefore, sector-specific exemptions especially for people who are in the logistics end, for example, because you are aware that farmers are not able to sell in the mandis because the mandis are closed, and that will affect the entire food chain, which we have in a very few days, because the Rabi season is just coming to an end. So for example, so the point is the public distribution system which we have, the government's public distribution system is not as effective. So therefore the logistics, to the example you gave, the logistics companies can be exempted from the lockdown, etc., and all of that, and be taken in for enhancing the distribution system, for example. Pharmaceuticals, of course, is a no-brainer. So therefore, the other thing which the government should do, because it expects corporate India to, rightfully so, to contribute. See, corporate India can contribute as a whole only when its balance sheet is strong. Without a strong balance sheet, you can do nothing. And there, thousands and thousands of crores are outstanding with the government, right, for dues which are dues for years. That needs to be released, and for that the government needs to work with the RBI to monetize that deficit. So it's a very integrated thing which is required, because throwing 1,000 crores here and 50 crores here and 200 crores here is not going to help the overall.
Fair point.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Yeah, no, fair point. I take that point. It has to be a synergy. You have to clear the dues of corporate India. Remember, several countries are giving wage support so that companies don't sack people or cut pay. Here we have sort of had a understanding and a request from government saying that don't sack people and don't cut pay, but for how long if their businesses are shut? So everyone has to work together on this one. Definitely a tough challenge indeed. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on the first debate.